Hey there, I'm Sergeant Jared DeRogers.
And I'm Sergeant Tim Sherry.
And we're with the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit's International Rifle Section. Today we're going to talk about rifle fundamentals in our first video of the new series, Sporter Air Rifle 101. Follow us in. The first fundamental we're going to be talking about today is aiming. To start off, it is crucial that you start your shooting career by using your proper eye. You can find out your eye dominance in the next video. To start today, you need to ensure that you're actually looking through the center of your eye socket. You don't want to be looking off to the side. You'll notice when looking through your sights, you're going to have multiple circles, as you can see in this picture. You want to make sure that the spacing in between all of the circles is equal and concentric all the way around. If it's not, you will actually be pointing at areas that you don't intend to be. It is also important to prevent eye fatigue. You can do this in several ways. The first of them is to ensure both eyes are open while you're shooting. You can do this by using a blinder. It is also important not to overhold and prevent reticle burn. You do this by ensuring that your hold isn't more than 10 to 12 seconds.
So second, we have triggering. It's important to squeeze the trigger without changing where the rifle is pointing. If you were to snap or jerk at the trigger, you might change where the rifle is aiming. So for good triggering with a sporter rifle, you want a firm but comfortable grip. A good rule of thumb that I have is similar to a firm handshake. You want little to no bend in your wrist. Then you'll place your finger on the trigger and slowly squeeze through the first stage until you hit the wall of the second stage. Once you're there, you'll continue to squeeze straight into the rear and try to let the shot surprise you. For good triggering with a sporter rifle, you want to try to break the shot in the middle of the hold so that you're not snapping or jerking at the trigger.
The third fundamental we're going to be talking about today is follow-through. Follow-through is continuing to apply the previous two fundamentals for 1 to 2 seconds after the shot. What this means is after your shot goes off, you should not jump your finger off the trigger. You should continue looking through your sights, ensuring proper alignment, and watch where the gun settles to ensure your natural point of aim was correct. If utilized properly, this can be an extremely beneficial tool to help you diagnose issues as well as calling your shots before you look at the monitor or scope to see where they went. When I'm struggling, this is the fundamental that I typically fall back on to help myself figure out what is happening. Poor follow-through typically leads to shots that aren't going where you expect them to be.
So the last fundamental we have is natural point of aim, or NPA. This is where the gun naturally wants to point when you have no muscle tension. To check this, you'll want to start by closing your eyes, relax your muscles so you have no muscle tension, then open your eyes to see where you're pointing. From there, you will adjust your position to make sure that you are pointing on target when you have no muscle tension. This is important because when you are using muscle tension, you will fatigue, possibly twitch, and just have more overall movement in your hold. Now we'll move to air rifle familiarization. Being familiar with your sights and how they work is extremely important. First, we're going to start off with your front sight globe and the aperture inside of it. This aperture can be replaced with different sizes. This will determine how much white space you see surrounding your target as you look at it through your sights. In general, the more movement you have, the bigger you want your aperture size to be. A great starting point is this chart. You will measure the distance from your eye to the front aperture and then use the corresponding size. Many new shooters use too small of an aperture size in the mistaken belief that they can aim more precisely at the middle of the target. Contrary to this belief, a tight aperture will cause the perception of increased hold movement, added eye strain, and overall more difficulty in shooting.
Next, you need to know how to properly adjust your sights as well as how much one click will move your impact. A neat little trick I like to use for remembering how to adjust your sights is the hand trick. Using your right hand, you will point your thumb in the direction you want your shot to go, and then turn the corresponding sight knob in the direction your fingers would wrap around it. You should begin training these fundamentals and become familiar with the rifle overall. I would encourage that you spend time training these things off of a kneeling roll on a bench or even on the ground. Take extra care to pay attention to applying all of these fundamentals to the best of your ability while you're training them.
Lastly, know the rules. For whichever competition you may be competing in, make sure you read the rule book. Just because you saw somebody do something once or were told by someone else doesn't mean that that rule hasn't changed.
I hope you enjoyed this Sporter 101 video. Stay tuned for our next video on finding your eye dominance. If you'd like any more information on the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit or the U.S. Army, check out the information below.